Hi guys, welcome back to the TheRawGraspPodcast. Hope you guys are doing great. Today we are at the gym. If you want to just kind of say who you are and all that extra good stuff.
Hi, I'm Will. I'm basically a regular here over at the Fitness 19 in Wildemar. I've been going here for about 4 years. Ever since around like freshman year, kind of just to make it my outlet. I've made this place basically my home over the years, and I wanted to like kind of give my idea onto you guys as to why I'm actually here. So
That's so cool. And you know, like for me, I've been here for, I would say, like a long time, for years, right? But I wanted to sit with you because mainly, you know, when you weren't as big, you know, I was like, okay, you know, you like it's weird how, you know, how we all are like, oh, he's just a person. I won't go say hi to the person, you know, after years and years and years, right? But, you know, I was like, okay, hey, you know, just like, but not like, hey, how's it going? Like being weird about it. Like, well, where do you live? Like, no, but that's awkward, right?
it's just making that initial connection, you know.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone kind of needs to like practice getting out of their bubble a little bit so that
that's huge.
they can kind of expand on what they actually believe, but at the same time also getting out of their shell to the point where they can eventually just walk up to a person and have a normal conversation.
Yeah.
We're humans, we're social, you know. I believe that introverts are just extroverted people that haven't really practiced the skill yet, so.
Wow. Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, so mainly with you, Will, I want to, you know, hop into, I guess, what certain people, I guess, are like, oh, I can't. Yeah, I would say I can't do this. So like right now we're at the gym. We met at the gym. So, you know, I just wanted to ask him because you're only 19, right?
Yes, sir.
And to have you not being so, you know, old, being super young, still getting after it, looking shredded out. It's super cool. And also to learn more about how you think, because he thinks, and I'm like, woo. So yeah, I wanted to have him on. So we're gonna, you know, of course, his age, right? And then to see how he thinks all around in life. So yeah, let's hop into how you see people who are like, oh, I'm too young, I'm too old to, I guess, be out and about, to hike, you know, all that kind of stuff, or at the gym specifically.
I would like to say that there's not really an age restriction when it comes to like doing activities, you know. It's just when we actually finally say, yeah, I'm ready for it, you know. I see a lot of people that are kind of going through life and they're like, oh yeah, like I need to be sacrificing my work life so that eventually I can do all this stuff during retirement. Or you have kids saying, oh, well, now that my childhood is over, I can't do this anymore. But in reality, if you set the time for it, you know, it's like making time to take time, or taking time to make time, right? If you take time to make time, you're basically saying, okay, well, I won't let the time make my time worthless, right? So basically, when you're taking that extra amount of time, right, each time, you're just saying, okay, well, instead of like going to work and going straight to home, right, you could still go out and ride a bike, right? You could still go out and go for a hike. You could still go out and hit the gym, you know? It's just kind of getting out of that mentality. You have to break the negative cycle. So basically, when everyone like starts to think about it in a negative mentality, they have to realize like that's how humans psychologically are wired. We're normally just supposed to be going about things in a very verbose way of doing it. So like in the way that we perceive it, it's going to be very simple. But when we give it second thought, it's when we start to actually perceive it for what it is.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot. See, I'm not up there like he is. That's on point. So, on what you've heard and seen, you know, from being here, what holds a lot of people back from, hey, I need to hop in the gym, stay fit. Okay, fit, cool, but stay active.
Well, I would definitely say it's accountability. To an extent, you have to be committed to yourself almost.
Okay.
and see this as a long-term thing that you're wanting to do, right? So for me, I've always seen it as small changes, right? In order to make a habit, you need to basically have a reason to start the skill. And then once the skill becomes a habit, it eventually develops into more of a reason of doing it. And then once you have a reason, you have more of a hope. And then that hope becomes a lifestyle.
So is that how you were, I guess, here, I would say almost every day. And, you know, you were, I would say it's small. You were small. I'm just gonna say.
Yeah, no, I was definitely, because I was biking a lot, you know, like
Okay.
I was in really good cardiovascular shape, but I wasn't strong at all. So for me, at least, like, I had to see it in like stages, right? So like with fitness, there's a lot of things that like people will look at and they'll be like, either I'm going to go straight into like powerlifting, straight into bodybuilding, straight into doing calisthenics, straight running, but like why not have a balance of all, right? Like see from an athletic perspective and try and get a well-rounded routine so that this way you're getting like small things to where you're still staying flexible, you're still staying fast, you're still staying strong, you know, just not having like super like crazy expectations that are going to fail you, you know. Keep them in like those reasonable areas, and then eventually you'll get everything up as time goes on. That makes sense?
Oh yeah, that's huge.
So.
Yeah, because you have, I would say, like a lot of people like me, you know, I'm like, I have to exercise a lot, and I'm like, bro, I have a gut still, like, what the heck? But with that, it's so much more. It's, of course, how you think, but then again, it's food, right?
Well, definitely,
that's
you know,
huge.
like, I was up to around 250 pounds at one point in my life.
Shredded out, though?
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Nah, I'm kidding. But no, you know, freshman year, you know, like I had gotten bullied a lot, so I was eating a lot, you know.
Okay.
Started making food my coping mechanism, and then I started like realizing like, why am I doing this? Like, I'm putting myself through the point that I'm like suffering. I don't feel healthy anymore, you know, like I had zero energy to do really anything, you know. Eventually I got to the point where I was like, okay, well now I'm going to do the gym, right? Like slowly pace it up a little bit.
Okay.
I was going through on my sophomore year, and I was kind of just like, okay, well, you know what? I need to quit some bad habits. Smoking being one of them, you know, I struggled with that for about 4 years. My lungs were really out of health, you know, my heart especially as well. I was constantly downing on caffeine. I was stressing out, you know, all the time, so that puts a lot of stress on your heart. My mind was always foggy, you know, like I didn't feel up to really like even being alive, to be fair. So some days, you know, like I was contemplating a lot of stuff in my head, you know, and it's those intrusive thoughts that like you have to really learn as time goes on to silence them out. Like it's not to say like they'll like go away completely, you know, but like it's just to make them like less heard.
Okay.
Because it's like you have to think like there's a reason that you're thinking these thoughts, and there's also a reason that you could be thinking better thoughts. So finding more reasons to actually think positively will reinforce that habit as time goes on. So you're making a positive habit of thinking.
Wow. Yeah, that's, I would say, yeah, key. Like it's all up top. It's how you think. What certain things helped you to kind of get over, you know, certain things you're doing, smoking, you were eating a lot to help out?
So I would say honestly, like in recent retrospect, you know, I'd gotten sober off of nicotine around December, and then I'd gotten sober off of weed in January.
Okay.
I've kind of gotten off of it a couple times, you know, so like I can kind of see how based on that, like my personality changes. And when I had gotten sober for about 6 months and gotten into a relationship, you know, that kind of was where things kind of had a turning point for my life, you know. I'd gotten out of the relationship and I was like kind of a little bit lost, you know. I got back into it, but it was prior to that relationship that I was like sober for around those 6 months, you know. I had quitting off my porn addiction. I had just stayed entirely true to myself and what my beliefs were, you know, as a man. So all of that put together, you know, it kind of gave me a perspective of what I could be. And then now I saw what I was becoming, and it kind of didn't add up, you know.
Oh. So at what point you kind of sitting there like, oh, this, that, all this extras that were happening, you kind of went like, I would say,
straight arrow on it?
Yeah, like way, yeah, like, hey, that's the person I am now. This sucks. I want to hop into that and be how you are now.
So on the first attempt, it was constantly seeing like the changes that I was having in my weight loss,
Okay.
that kind of perspired me to basically have a better mindset on overall how I was looking at myself, but at the same time too, like it's not good to have too much pride. So on the second phase, I kind of like, I was like, okay, well, my brother had just passed away, he had gotten hit in December by a car, basically. We were out in Texas for his funeral around January, which is when I had gotten sober off of marijuana.
It's hard to hear that.
No, it's fine, but basically that was kind of my thing. He had been a drinker his entire life, and so in that perspective, I kind of just had to like reassess and like realize like, okay, well, that is my greater reason, right? Like I'm living out my life for him, but I'm also living out my life for me. I can't let myself go down a road that I realize is like wasting my time, and like I realize now how precious time actually is. So every day that I'm in here, like it's just to say like I'm not just keeping myself busy, like I'm trying to build up myself. There's a lot of things that like when you're thinking about things in the gym, you're in a better like mindset because like you're in a productive mindset to want to get things done. As long as you like get out of like either the morning like sleepies or whatever, like
Yeah.
Once you get into it, you're not making excuses and you're just there. You get locked in, you're having a great time, and that's why you're here. So
Dang.
it's just building up over time, like a lot of people will like come in here, they'll do like very minimalistic stuff and like they're expecting a greater like results
Yeah.
than what they're putting in. So
Okay.
that's why I push myself to failure every day, like
Yeah.
for me, at least, like as a kid too, like I know I have so much energy that could be doing all this stuff, like, and it doesn't matter really what age you are, like as long as you're pushing yourself, that's good. So,
Wow. I'll be back. How did you get over or around him, how he got hit and all that kind of stuff? Because I'm sure, it hit you hard,
I'll be fair, like I have been in therapy for about 8 years, so I kind of did like some like talking with myself on things to like kind of like reassess like what my emotions were on that, I started to see like the pain that my family was in, like, and I realized like too, like as a man in the family, like I know it's a more stereotypical thing to say like, oh, the man is supposed to be the strong of like the family, but like when you're seeing everyone else kind of like crumble around you, like you kind of have to like step up and like realize like, okay, well, now it's basically my time to start doing what I need to be doing, right? Like set an example so that this way they can follow. So it's not really like saying like be the center of attention. It's to say like do better for yourself, people will follow. Even if it's in that sense of like showing strength, like you step up to yourself and then things fall into place.
Yeah, because, when certain things happen, which we aren't kind of, I guess...
able to adjust.
Yeah, we're like, this has never happened, which, it makes sense, but it will happen. I know that's horrible to say, but we all die. So just FYI out there. But it's all how you see it. And yeah, that's huge. So so I'm gonna hop back. I'm huge on having help. Either if you have a certain person you want to talk to, a friend, you go, how you were saying you've been in it for 8 years, like for therapy.
Yeah.
And I am as well, because I got these. I'm like, that person's doing this. Oh my gosh, it's like, okay, cool. Who cares? But how do you see it? It's like, okay, are you going to see it horribly at like they aren't trained or they're not spoken to a certain way at home? All that stuff will actually I guess it'll come out.
Well,
right?
It's kind of like, what's it called? On the last therapy session that I had with, what's it called? Basically a more psychologist, I guess you would say.
Okay.
He had kind of talked about how there's like these chickens in like a coop, right?
Okay.
And basically this eagle had gotten separated from its nest.
Okay.
Now the eagle thinks that it's a part of these chickens.
Okay.
And so it never learns how to fly. But when the eagle starts to see another eagle fly,
it
starts to learn.
Oh, so yeah, how you were saying, I would say like It happens in life everywhere. Job, gym, if somebody if something happens to whoever, you know, of course we are human, we're emotional, which sucks, right? No, but then again, it's all how you see certain things. And
we wouldn't be human though if we didn't have emotion. So
that is true.
In that way, it's just kind of like, I tell people like, okay, well, understand your emotions, but don't let them control you, because emotions cloud judgment. That kind of makes sense. So
see, look,
processing.
He's already like up there for what I'd say most people I know who are older are only kind of 15 this now, me included. I'm like, no, you know, because me, I just work at my job, have a hobby, sleep, and do it. And I'm like, okay, but now I'm exposed to so many more things, meet so many more people, and just sit with people who are open to, I guess, talk on camera, because for some people it's like, I don't like how I look. Okay, you look fine.
I kind of,
you know,
I would say like I kind of like to look at life as like an acid tab, right?
An acid tab?
An acid tab.
Bro,
so,
okay, go ahead.
So imagine this is like your perception of what's going to put you into a trip, right?
Okay.
And this is going to be the thing that wakes you up. A lot of people talk about like ego death and all that nonsense, but like in reality, what they're not realizing is they're basically trapping themselves into that tiny little square. They're not seeing it as, okay, well, I didn't need this little square to be perceiving life this entire time.
Okay.
But now that you've taken it, you've trapped yourself into that mentality. The second that you get off of it, you start to see, oh yeah, well, I was trapped in that mentality.
Yeah. And for those people who are on that, you don't need it, you know, have to have your own way to, I guess, be awake, I guess, to see certain things, you know, because it won't stop, as in, like, you're cool, something happens, you have to take you have to take something to not have you in that certain spot. It's still around. That thing still happened. It's just kind of, you have to deal with certain things. And yeah, I would say to seek to have that help, right? Because it's huge, because you have I would say a lot of people who are doing horrible things because they don't seek that help. Like, oh, that person hates me because of this. Okay, cool. Don't be around them. Try and not be around them.
Yeah.
Go and get help from somebody who's already, I would say, been in that spot. Like for me in school, I've been called names in this, in that, and I'm like, bro, I don't even know what that means. Because for me, I don't like white, black, Asian, you know, all this kind of stuff. I don't actually like
you don't perceive it the same way
as a race. And I'm like,
I just see us as humans.
Yeah.
And to be fair too, like, I did separate off all of my friends, you know.
Okay.
I found a community inside of the gym though. And that's where you have to kind of like see it, you know, like people from high school are in the past, you know, like the majority of them, you don't even have to see them as friends. You'll have very few friends in life and you'll have a lot of acquaintances. When you meet a person of like genuine character and they're actually standing for what they believe in, that's when you know that they're a real person. That's why I feel like I made an instant connection with you, because I saw that you were true to yourself. There's something about like when you actually like walk into a room, you look a person in the eye, and if they can stare you straight back into the eye, and they have respect for you. So if not, you know, they're just in their own head. And that kind of just shows that they're going through their walk in life. It's not to say that they won't eventually like reach that point, they're just not there yet. So body language too, you know, like I think when a person is like comfortable, you know, like they won't be all like head down or anything, you know, like that kind of tells you like, are they like happy with themselves? So, and you know, like that's why I'm very like patient on certain things, you know, like especially with love now too, you know, like you have to see it as it's something that's like out there for you, but like make sure that you're prepared basically with yourself first and with whatever your belief system is. If you have to like basically have like someone that is around you all the time, you know, like it's kind of counteractive to that statement, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, I don't know. For some people, they want them around a lot.
they want the intimacy, yeah.
Because they're like, oh, I have to have that person because they complete me. It's like, okay, well, what happens when they're like, I'm good?
And you know, that's why I see the divorce rates are so high nowadays. It's because of the fact that people like think that off the bat, right? But like, think about it like this: love is a temporary like emotion, right?
Okay.
Whereas like when you're in a long-term relationship, it's basically a friendship.
Okay.
So that's where you're basically focusing more on like the bonding, you know, like holding things off, like before you actually like get into that, you know.
Okay.
Make sure that the hobbies are kind of built up first so that you guys kind of like understand what the red flags are with each other, you know, like whether it would actually work out, whether or not they're actually like inside of your character development stage the same way, you know, like that pairs together in a very specific range. Like obviously don't look at them as like, oh yeah, they have to have so and so and so and so right with them, but like say, okay, well, these are my bare minimums.
Okay.
I have to have a person that actually respects themselves, is knowledgeable, maybe takes care of their like hygiene, you know, like simple stuff.
I would
like,
hope so, yeah.
So
okay. Nice.
It's just to show that they're matured in those aspects. So
yeah, because I've seen right now, it's all over, either on Instagram, TikTok, you know, it's all about, oh, I want a man that can take, or a girl, whoever, can be like, hey, I don't have to work, you know, all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay, cool, awesome. But why are they after you? Why are they still around you?
yeah,
Right? Because you have people, oh no, it's because I only have something to offer them. As in, it's not them, it's all they have. Either if they have certain things, I'll say boobs, you know, all that extra stuff. Because, you know, us men, we're like, yeah, I like how that looks. But how are they as a person? You know, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. It's like, I don't need to do anything. I don't even need to be around you right now.
and it's like, you know, for a long time I had like this mentality like, oh yeah, well, if a woman approaches me, she's interested in me, but like in that same perspective too, it kind of shows a little bit of desperation, because as the man, you should want to go and seek out a wife.
Okay.
You know, you should want to like actually have that connection. So like, that's why I believe, at least like in the gym, for example, right? You have a lot of people that are actually waiting for that man to walk up to them, but they're also looking at all those small details like we had talked about previously to like actually like call it a green flag to even like start something off with them, you know, like going on that first date or whatever, you know, like giving them the time, like. But then you also have people that obviously just are kind of a tease, right? Like they're just in there to like kind of grab your attention or whatever, and then like lead you on and then throw you off to the dust. So kind of separating that out, you know, like you have to like see it as your time of day is actually worth more than theirs almost.
Okay.
So this way you hold yourself up to a higher mentality. And then from there, you'll find someone that's actually worth your time.
So you mainly want that person to actually be who they are, but at the same time, not just have you as like an option.
Exactly.
Like, oh yeah, I can get that, I can get that.
You want them to want you, because that's the only way that it's going to actually stay genuine, you know? Like, it's kind of like, you know, like when you get into like the relationship, right? And like she starts to test you. She's going to basically see, okay, well, how easy is he to irritate, right? Like, what are like the things that are going to like tick his buttons, right? Like, so basically, like in that way, you know, like having self-control, having discipline, having humility, having self-respect for yourself, you're not going to get irritated by any of that. You're just going to know that it's a phase. That's why it's called like, I don't know, they just kind of like go off of it as a stage where they're kind of just testing the waters, you know?
Okay.
So, and it doesn't last forever, you know, like obviously like certain people maybe, because it's just like they thrive on chaos, but you don't want to be around someone that's like toxicity, right? So if it starts to go on past like a 6-month period, you have to like say, okay, well, you know what, this isn't someone that I want to be with, you know, like you can start to see like how their actual like mental health is. So
yeah, and
how they treat you.
Yeah, that's huge. And yeah, like the health right now is, I would say it's not great, because you have a lot of people who I would say, of course, aren't as old, but older as well. They're like, I don't know what to do. I just think it's because they lack hope, and they lack what to actually do in life. And they're like, oh, I'm just gonna chill out in age. And
my parents have been married basically for 50-something years now. They're
awesome.
my main example, honestly. Like, if I ever saw them get divorced, I would lose hope for a relationship, because they've been together that long, and I've seen a lot of arguments go along in that route. You know, I've seen a lot of like small disagreements, you know, stuff that would honestly like tick a lot of people off. But you know, it's learning to walk away from things. So like, certain arguments aren't worth like actually discussing, you know, because it's just like, it's gaslighting, you know.
Okay.
To the point that it's like, okay, well, if you come back to me and like you say you're sorry or something, you know, like, don't do this every time, because like certain talks you're still going to have with them. You just have to kind of like weigh how like important the conversation actually is, you know. Like, if it's something that can be postponed, then postpone it. Like, it's not going to carry weight in that moment, you know. Like, it'll give them time to like find a reason in their thoughts and come back and be like, okay, well, you know what, maybe I realized like this wasn't worth actually like arguing over. But like, if they take it like too seriously and they take it as though it was like a personal attack, you know, that kind of shows their maturity level.
Yeah, that's
and that's why
that's
I believe
huge.
like just silencing your thoughts every single day, right? Like, taking at least like 30 minutes to just process how you're going about your day, seeing how it's actually like, okay, well, it could either go this way or that way, right? Like, that could completely save your entire mentality that day. It'll save you from doing some poor decisions, you know. Like, everything that you choose to do is a choice, and it'll either have a positive or a negative outcome. So,
dang. Yeah, that is a huge thing. So what things have you seen age is huge on how whoever they'll how they, I guess, will be like, oh, I was on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube or whatever and seen something, and they'll kind of absorb that and use that, either like bad or good. But for you, you don't have well,
yeah, so I separated myself off from technology fairly recently.
Smartphone.
I got a flip phone, you know.
It's so sick.
So
tight.
that was my main way of basically quitting my porn addiction. But at the same time, you know, like when you're constantly on social media and you're perceiving everything as like, okay, well, this is truthful, right? But like, you're not willing to do the research to actually back it up, you know, like, because our attention spans from like actually like scrolling through it all the time, like,
Yeah.
it's just very short and it's very minimalized. And that's where they've actually like managed to capture your guys' brains in, is because of the fact that you're not only just seeing it from a small like perception view, but it's just so short to where it can't like grasp your attention enough to want to do research on it. Whereas like when you start like actually studying again, you know, reading, involving your brain and doing some processing of thought, it completely changes who you are as a person, because you're finally seeing things in a creative aspect, to the point that you're basically, your prefrontal lobe is kind of just triggered a little bit more so that it can process thoughts at a more high intensity. You're having more neurons basically fired off all at once. And it's not to like say, okay, well, I'm saying this to sound smart, right? But you need to think like, what are the things that are actually like helping you, right? Like, so in that perspective, like, you would honestly want to do things that are going to involve more long-term health, right? It's been proven that if you read at least for a good 30 minutes a day, it triggers less dementia. So why not do it? And more creativity as a person, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
you start to see things as not so abstract. It's just very, well, not so abstract, but at the same time, like, you're having more beauty to everything, because you're able to involve it in such a way that you're now like reading a novel in like life, right? Like,
Yeah.
you're perceiving, like, let's say the mountains that we have over here in California, right? Like, everything is like a green pasture. You have rocks on the sides, but it's still giving that beauty of just a composed well-rounded area.
Yeah.
Something that you wouldn't find anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
So.
And then you, of
mansions
course,
on the hillside,
beautiful
palm trees. You're able to see the entire valley and just see the entire like vastness of everything in the small perception that we're seeing it on the daily.
Yeah. And then you won't see that if you're just head down on a phone or a tablet, whatever, and just scrolling away your life. Because it's huge. How did you get over your whole thing to look at all the porn?
I would say, honestly, it's kind of like just keeping yourself busy, like,
okay.
For me at least, like, I started going for walks again, like getting some sunlight, Obviously, there was like a period where I was kind of like, okay, well, yeah, I'm going to go back to it, right? Like, because that's how our mind is swayed. It's very easy, but like, once you don't give yourself the option, it's just out of your, like, entire mentality.
Okay.
A lot of people, like, they don't realize, like, yeah, you could have the computer, right? Like, and still have the, like, flip phone. It just minimalizes your overall time that you're actually going to be spending on it, right? So, like, do it in an area, like, for example, a Starbucks or something, right? That, like...
Okay, no, I would say...
No.
To not do it at a Starbucks. But I get what you're coming
watching
from.
it.
Yeah,
like,
I get it.
I'm saying, like, use the computer out in a public area so that this way you don't have that temptation.
Yeah.
And then this way, when you put it away for, like, the night or whatever, right? Like, put it in an area that's, like, far away from you so that this way, by the time that it, like, comes to it, put, like, maybe a sticky note on the computer and say, what's it called? The actions that make a person are greater than the choices.
That's huge. So, what about, that is an option to do on the computer, but you got a lot of people do it on their phones.
Definitely. That's why I'm saying, like,
how do you
switch back to the flip?
No, because I don't think people are good at.
I'm like,
okay, go ahead.
You have to think about it like this. Like, it's so easy to, like, use everything, like, on a smartphone, but, like, at the same time, you could do the exact same things on the computer, right? Like, checking your email, posting things on YouTube, going on social media even, but, like, it's in a very minimalized amount. Like, you're only going to be on that computer for what, like, maybe an hour or so during the day, right? Compared to, like, having it on you, like, for almost, like, 10 to, like, 12.
Yeah.
And then you'll be through on the phone, like, for about 8 hours of the day.
So you're trying to not be on your phone so much will not have as much exposure, and then you be like, oh, that person looks hot or cute or whatever, and you're like, bing, like you have that thought, and like, oh,
And for like at least like the first like 3 weeks, I would say if you can hold off from actually using social media, like you'll be fine. Because of the fact that you're just taking that period of time to like process your thoughts, kind of experience what it's like to not like, I know the whole like dopamine detox thing has become like a major topic of like conversation, but in reality it's just giving your brain a break from all that blue light, constantly like pulsing it all the time, like
highs.
It's easy sensitization.
Oh yeah.
And so to that point it also becomes easy desensitization.
Wow. Yeah, that's huge. So we are still on that kind of thing about watching extra stuff. How do you see people being on OnlyFans?
So I would say honestly it's kind of become like a public excuse to like allow these things, like you have to look back in history to see that it's actually a reoccurring pattern. It's not just like with OnlyFans, right? Like if you look at like, for example, the Greek and the Romans, right? What was the downfall in the beginning downfalls of their society? It was basically that they were allowing drugs to become more common, They were allowing prostitution to come out more. They were allowing things that were basically banned up to that point, right? But they decided, okay, well, now that we're kind of a revolving city or whatever, right? Of our own like control, they thought it was okay. And it's the human mindset to say things are okay, when in reality we know it's wrong and we still choose to do it.
Yeah, but you have whoever out there,
it's making them money, and that's why they allow it.
Oh, okay, yeah, because it's huge, because you have to pay them to be on there their certain site, you know, all that extras with it. It makes sense. But, you know, like you have, I would say, a lot of people on there. They're like, oh, that they're on there because they can't talk to people, or they aren't like an okay person. Up to a point, I'm like, you don't really know them. It's just something.
It's like a catch-22 though by saying that statement, because like it's the things that they're doing at that point that are basically making them like that.
Okay.
If a person like actually socializes, they start to like actually like realize like, okay, well, certain things aren't socially appropriate.
Okay.
And when you're allowing things to basically get allowed all the time, you know, you're perceiving it in a way that it's something that you're allowed to do. Like, why would you look at a person inside of a gym, right? And like, obviously there's a lot of like people in here that are doing stuff that I wouldn't like say, okay, well, yeah, you can do that, but like, I'm not going to say like it's appropriate, right?
Okay,
like,
yeah.
It's kind of just built on the mentality that we have to always socially please people, you know?
Okay.
But at the same time, like, we've gotten a bit too comfortable. That kind of makes sense. So like,
yeah,
seeing where it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna be the mature one and just say I'm not gonna do this anymore. Like,
okay.
I stopped looking at people a certain way because of the fact that I was just kind of not wanting to do that anymore. I said that was a part of me in the past.
Yeah.
You know? So even if like I'm like keeping my head down or whatever, you know, in like the gym, right? Like, I don't want to be like staring at a girl's ass because it doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah.
Like, I would rather like be ready when I'm like socially matured enough to like actually approach her, take her out on a date or something, and make that genuine connection. Because like, you could have someone like walk up to you, right? Like, still take them out on a date, and like you guys could wind up like hitting it off that night. But like in the end, like, it's not gonna last because you didn't take the time to let it mature, kind of like, you know, get that build on it. It's like setting like small bricks. Like, how are you gonna build a house with one brick?
Yeah.
It's not gonna work.
Yeah.
So that's why there has to be multiple like occasions, you know, like that's why certain people will even wait like years, because it's the fact that they're trying to build that genuine connection, and those are the people that I believe like actually stay in the relationship for the longest. It's because of the fact that they held off from like all the sexual intimacy, you know, because you have to think like, okay, well, there's this hormone basically that's produced, it's called oxytocin, right? Okay. And when you have sex, it's the only way to actually produce it. Okay. That's what that connection is that people feel when they have sex. But it's only when certain triggers have actually been like put into place beforehand for it to stay.
Oh, so you're saying if it's just like, okay, you look good, bam, bam, cool. But then if you see a person, you're like, oh, you're this, you're that, awesome, you're an awesome person. And then as stuff goes down, you're like, wow, I can feel all of that.
Yeah, because it's like we're just like dopamine junkies, right?
Okay,
like, you have to think like we're going for anything that's like the easiest trigger. And it's like, that's where like humans have to kind of like think and process what they're doing before they're doing it, because it's just like, it could happen that quickly. Yeah. You're chasing that like instant gratification, whereas like, this is where like taking that time to like push gratification aside, you know, and like enjoy the moment with the person, like, wow, that's where it starts to build the genuineness.
Yeah, that's huge. We are about to end it up. You're awesome. And shredded. Look at this guy. No, I'm kidding. Is there anything else you want to add in to help people who, you know, aren't as old or older, whoever that you've seen that can be like, oh, you need therapy, you need to stop thinking, and then, or thinking about certain things, and then you won't go get like a gun and go shoot up schools, all this crap, which is, it sucks, you know, but it's happening, right? So, you know, certain things.
As time's gone on, I've kind of just been able to sum it up into like a single like line. So basically, I like to say, kind of just perceive things without thinking and start listening to reason.
Reason, okay.
When you have reason, it basically will justify anything that you're doing because of the fact that now you have good reason to do it. Whereas when you're just thinking, you're going off of your own like thoughts, and your own thoughts could lead you wrong. So listen to a person that's maybe had experience on it, you know, like I'm a former drug addict, you know, like I've gone through other addictions as time's gone on, and I've just decided to end that phase of my life because I want it to be a better me today and tomorrow and the next day and so on in my future. You have to have a goal in mind, you know, like even if it's like to say like to meet that special someone or whatever, you know, like down the line, right? You want to be bringing the best self into that relationship. You want to be bringing the best self into your own future so that you're not cutting yourself off from what you're worth.
Dang. Yeah, that's huge. But at the same time, you have to be not on a drug or let your emotions take over. Like, oh, that person, I didn't like them because they treated me wrong, so I'm going to go shoot up schools. Okay, just don't be around them.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like, that's why I believe in like the 7 deadly sins, right? Like anger, gluttony, lust,
sloth,
wrath, pride.
Pride.
All of those put together, basically, like, I know I'm missing a couple, but those are the main, like, 5 at least that we had listed that will kind of, like, set you back in life. Because it's the simple, like, nature of human to kind of just go back to those simple habits. That's what our primordial, like, wiring is. So.
That's a lot. And you're only 19, and you already had that. I just think, you know, you being so young, you've had a lot more exposure than normal people, and you were able to seek help and actually to, I guess, see where you are in that certain spot, kind of see where it leads, and you're like, I don't want to do that, because you're like, I'm not trying to screw up my life. I'll say ish on that.
You have to have hope for a future first before you start planning a life. So.
Wow, that's huge. So with that, we're gonna end it up. Thank you so much for being here to, you know, just to be open, and also be on I would say online on YouTube. You know, yeah, so sick. But thank you again. Thank you for being here with us on the Raw Graphs podcast, and have a good day or night wherever you are, and over and out.
Later, man.